Scavengers Reign is a show that you may have heard of. Everyone who's seen this show has nothing but praise for it, and it currently has a score of 8.7 on IMDb. If you haven't heard of Scavengers Reign, it's about a crew of a deep space freighter who have been left stranded on a mysterious and unknown planet. Something happened to cause the ship to go off course, resulting in the crew being forced to abandon ship. Now they must not only survive this harsh yet bewitching landscape, but race against time to get back to their ship so they can rescue the remaining crew members who were all put into cryosleep. Now the concept of Scavengers Reign isn't exactly new. I think we've all seen or read things that had similarities to Scavenger Reign's rather simple story. But the reason why Scavengers Reign has received such high acclaim is because of its execution, and the fact that it still finds a way to be unique. The moment I saw Sam, the best character in the show, slowly come into some random animal's arse, pull and manoeuvre its intestines like he was working with machinery, and then use that same creature's kidneys as a glow stick, I knew that I was watching something special. The creators of Scavengers Reign have crafted a world unlike any other that I've seen. The planet they are stuck on is one of the most hauntingly beautiful that I've ever seen. So much thought and imagination has been put into the designs of the wildlife and how they would operate. Like our own world, there are dangerous animals around, yet like the characters, you never know what to expect from these creatures. Even the most docile and friendly of animals can have unexpected impacts on the survivors. And it's not just the animals too, but the plant life as well. In fact, the plant life may be even worse. Every time a new creature or obstacle presents itself in this series, you're always left fascinated and excited to learn about it. And every now and then, the show doesn't present the characters with something dangerous and instead shows you something that is just genuinely beautiful. In my opinion, the selling point of this show is its unique world, and Scavengers Reign works so well because it's constantly telling this story and showing the viewer things that only Scavengers Reign could show. I get so annoyed when you have these shows with these unique ideas or premises and they just decide to tell me a story and show me things or give me all these messages that literally any other show could do. Scavengers Reign is a unique beast and revels in its uniqueness, creating this tone and atmosphere that remains consistent throughout the entire show. Now this is also an animated show, so how is the animation? I'm not going to lie, at first I didn't like how this show looked. I don't know what the art style is called, but it sort of reminded me of that old game Facade.
Gonzalo!
Now this show looks way better than Facade by the way, but that was where my brain went when I played the first episode of this show. And I did bounce off this show's art style at first, but it did really grow on me and I ended up really liking it. The animation though was great from the start, it was just the aesthetic and art style that I personally needed to warm up to. But like I said, the animation in this show is great. If I was to compare the animation in this show to other Western animated shows, then where would I put it? Is the animation as good as Castlevania, for example? I personally wouldn't say that Scavengers Reign hits the heights of that show, but it is way better than any animation that Invincible has put out. And the best part of the animation in this show is that it is consistent. At no point does the ball ever drop with this show, and there are genuinely some moments where the animation blew me away. This is a show with clear talent in all areas, so of course HBO decided to cancel this show after one season. I don't know why HBO decided to cancel this show, because it certainly wasn't due to a negative reception. This show was one of the most positive receptions to a show that I've ever seen, and I can't find an answer online as to why the show was cancelled either. If I had to guess, it would probably be because the show didn't have that many people watching it, which wouldn't be a surprise because HBO did essentially nothing to promote this show. When will streaming services learn that if they're not going to promote a show, then people aren't going to know it exists and they aren't going to watch it? I only found out about this show after they cancelled it because everyone who has seen it was lighting funeral pyres for it. But luckily, all is not yet lost. Netflix have swooped in and put the show on their service and are apparently thinking about making a second season. So please, do go out of your way to watch this show on Netflix, because if it does well enough, then it will get another season. Everything about this show is on such a high level, and it really does deserve to be continued. We shouldn't be robbed of this excellent show. If I had to force myself to come up with a negative, then it would be to do with the characters. Now the characters are actually great. Whilst there are other characters in this show, Scavengers Reign focuses on 5 survivors. Sam and Ursula, who are my favourite characters in the show. Sam was the captain of the ship and felt a duty to his crew to save them. Every action he takes is so that he can get to the ship as fast as possible, and wipe the others out of their cryosleep. I always agreed with everything he said too in the show. He's always taking a logical approach and putting others before himself, and I love his relationship with Ursula. I got the impression that the two didn't really know each other that well before being marooned on this planet, but they both look out for each other. Sam is far more logical than Ursula, who is far more curious about this world, which makes sense as I believe she's either a scientist or a botanist. This new world with new creatures would excite her and piques her interest, whereas Sam views this world as an obstacle in his path. Both of their approaches to this world results in problems, but there's never something that causes a major issue between them. They have their disagreements, but they both want to survive together, and I enjoyed their scenes the most. Then there's Ozzy and Levi. Whereas Sam and Ursula overall work well together, Ozzy and Levi don't, mainly because Levi is a robot and Ozzy can be very cold towards Levi. Ozzy wants to go home and see the girl that she's fallen for again. Levi, on the other hand, is evolving rapidly on this planet as the world literally begins to combine with her. What I like about this pair is how friendship between the two forms. As Levi begins to develop actual emotions and feelings, Ozzy starts to mellow out and view Levi as more than just a robot. Ozzy herself can be quite robotic with her emotions, so I enjoyed watching as both characters opened up more and discovered more about themselves. Lastly, there's Kamen. Kamen goes on a very different journey to the other characters. He's stuck with this alien creature that puts this black goo inside of him to feed him, but also shows him memories of his wife. Kamen has a very dark story, and honestly the more I learned about him, the less that I liked him. I won't say any more to avoid spoilers, but I will say that the alien creature that he befriends was legitimately a little scary at times, and by far the most dangerous thing that I saw on that planet. So if I like the characters, then what's my issue? My issue is that there's only 5 of them. Yes, there are other characters in this show, we do get flashbacks and there are all those people in cryosleep, but for the most part we're only following these 5. And the problem is that some of the tension disappears out of the series, at least for me. Because the characters keep getting put into these terrible situations, but you also realise that they can't die, otherwise their storyline would end. Yes, later on in the season is a bit different, but when it becomes clear that we're only following these 5, it kinda becomes clear that they're actually safe. Only Sam and Ursula didn't feel safe, and that's because there's 2 of them. One of them could die and that storyline could still continue. If Kamen dies, then that part of the show would end, and if Ozzy dies, same thing. I think the show, as cliche as it would have benefited from having a 6th survivor whose sole purpose was to die in either episode 1 or 2, just to raise the stakes and make the viewer a little more uneasy. This show does kill off characters, by the way. I did say that there are more characters than just these main 5, and some characters do really die horribly, and without spoiling anything, perhaps there are some deaths present for our main 5 here too. It's just that I realised very quickly that no matter what the characters come across, they are most likely surviving it, like no one's dying in episode 4. It's a very minor thing, but considering how tense I was in episode 1, that tension dissipated for me very quickly. But outside of that one very small thing, I had no issues with this show. I think Scavengers Reign is genuinely excellent. It has one of the most unique and creative worlds that I've ever seen. A world so good that I really want to see a lot more of it. What other undiscovered creatures are scuttling around on that planet? The animation is brilliant and the art style really won me over, and I ended up loving that too. The characters are all great and you will really root for their survival. And when a character does die, you'll be shaking your head in denial, proclaiming that this is a weird planet, so maybe they're not actually dead. Spoilers, they are. And then there's the story, which on the surface is quite simple and perhaps could even be described as generic, but there is so much thought put into this show, and the simplicity of the story allows for a lot of themes and messages to naturally fit into Scavengers Reign. Please, 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 I beg of you, watch this show. I need more Scavengers Reign. It is fantastic and you will not regret watching this show. Netflix, please greenlight season 2. They clearly have more story to tell, what with that little tease at the end. Please? Fingers crossed they'll listen. But anyway, that's just how I felt about Scavengers Reign. What about you? Do you like Scavengers Reign? Have you even seen it? Had you even heard of the show before it was cancelled? And are you hoping Netflix makes a 2nd season? Also, who's your favourite character? Mine's Sam, because he's the best. But do let me know in the comments below all your answers to these questions, as well as your general thoughts on Scavengers Reign. And whilst you're down there, do be sure to hit the like button. It significantly boosts this video in the YouTube algorithm. And if you're feeling especially generous, then do consider subscribing. I'm hoping to hit 1000 subscribers before the end of the year, and we're nearly there. But anyway, thank you so much for watching this video, I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.